Our third day in Italy, we didn't have any spectacular tourist destinations planned. The most spectacular thing about that day was the time that we spent in the car. We wanted to cover a pretty good distance in Italy in the car so we could see what the country really looks like. We went through many roundabouts and they were pretty easy. We had to learn to ignore the voice on the GPS because it almost never agreed with what we saw on the signs. I'd learned that to be comfortable driving in Italy, stay out of the cities, stay off the main highways, and yield to pedestrians like you were in Portland, Oregon. And then just be assertive, be decisive. We stopped to use the bathroom at a gas station, and the lady behind the counter just was not in the mood to help some foreigners that day. But as I was coming back from the bathroom, I asked the translator app to tell me how to say "you are kind." And when I said that to her, she smiled, and it was a wonderful transformation. We spent some time on some fairly big, fast roads, not the major freeways. Quite a bit of time on some medium-sized roads. But the real pleasure was when we were really out in the country. As we approached our evening destination, Riola, some of the roads got to be switchbacks and hairpin turns. And that was a lot of fun to drive. We went to Modena, where we saw the Ferrari Museum, and then we found out that Maserati and Lamborghini, all three of these supercar makers, are within about 30 miles of each other. We approach Riola, where there's a magnificent castle. We're going to tour that in the morning, but we have to get to our Airbnb. Our Airbnb was built by the same person who built that castle. As we were checking in, our Airbnb host and hostess, about our same age, spoke very little English, and we spoke almost no Italian. So as they were checking us in, I thought I would use the Google Translate app. When I saw what it thought I said, I decided never to use it as a speaking thing again. In touring the little town of Riola, Mary saw this doorway and thought it might be a thrift shop. So we decided to go in, but what we discovered was magnificent. This guy had built by hand this beautiful tabletop layout of a grist mill with running water and water wheels and grinding mechanisms and hammers and everything that ran off the water power. And I don't know how many years he spent building that, but his tools were laid out and he was proud to show it off. So we made an appropriate donation. We're so thrilled to stumble into that. The next morning, we had our coffee and tea out on the balcony of our Airbnb, and then we went to tour the castle. The original castle is much older, but much of the work that we saw was done in the 1800s from the rich guy who was running his medical business with electrotherapy and a bunch of stuff that was new at the time, and making this castle such a fancy place. The tours were all in Italian, and we had downloaded their app and tried to listen to the English they provided, but it really wasn't much good. Our guide was kind enough to spend some time giving us a few details that we could understand. But mostly we just listened to what she said, even though we didn't understand it. It was just kind of fun to listen to her putting on a great show, telling everybody what was going on there. There was no question how beautiful the place was. We left on our way to Florence, and we stopped in this little town, and this was the furthest we got away from feeling like tourists. There was a little grocery store slash bar that was the only place in town, and the locals were hanging around, and we went in and bought a couple of pieces of pizza, and we were completely helpless without our translation app, and the guy behind the counter did not take it as his personal problem that we didn't speak Italian. And now we're heading down the road to turn in the car in Florence and get on the train and make our way to Rome.